There's some alarming stuff going on about two families. One is Prince William and Catherine's family, and apparently there's an article in the Hindustan Times which talks about William and Kate arguing over Kate's family, the Middletons, and over their bills. Apparently they've had a financial and a PR disaster, according to the king, who's concerned about the way that they, quote, carelessly squandered money, particularly during the COVID period, which seems to have been some sort of benchmark. And Carol and Michael are now over £3 million in debt. So there seems to have been a serious wobble in the family, and it's over money. And in the royal family, that seems frankly absurd, doesn't it? And the surgery seems to have exacerbated the problem. So I don't know whether it's particularly, I mean, there's so much gossip on the internet about Rose Hanbury. I don't really know who she is, about stability, about tension in the marriage. But in the end, it's the Hindustan Times seems to think the big problem is finance and arguments. On the plus side, apparently Adobe Photoshop has done remarkable sales in the last week. Sales are rocketing after the publication of the photo last Sunday. But the absurdity is, I don't think that photo's got anything to do with Photoshop. I use Photoshop all the time. I cannot imagine that I would be making the sort of mistakes that are in that photo. That photo, to me, is something which has been generated by AI improvement, and some sort of, you press a button and the camera selects which bits of the 20-odd photos that you've taken during the session it will cobble together. It's a bit of machine learning, and machines are only as good as the person who is managing them. People complain about the tools they use, but in the end, it's the owner of the tool, not the tool itself, which is the problem. And that brings us to Laurence Fox. Now, Laurence Fox is somebody, I have a lot of fondness for Laurence Fox, but he doesn't do himself any favours. And his squabble on GB News certainly didn't do himself any good. And I don't know. All that said, I still think that the problem with the GB News comments, appalling though they were, is that they were almost certainly fleshed out by the approval of a producer. And production is all over the place in a television studio. People have one eye on what will be a nifty thing to say, a little quotation, something's going to get them a headline in the news. And they've got another eye on Ofcom and all the rules and regulations. I think in this case, the eyes favoured one side rather than the other, and Laurence was the vehicle of somebody else's enthusiasm. And producers are always very young. Generally, when you go into a TV or radio studio, you've got producers littering the place. And some of them are spectacular. A good producer is worth their weight in gold. But there's also plenty of people who are edging their way up the system. And how do you tell the difference between one and the other? Basically, you have to rely on these people. These people are the linchpins of the organization, and you just have to trust them. You may well find, as somebody who's coming in as a guest, that you're trusting the wrong person. Well, how are you to know? You can't know. And they want you to be edgy, they want you to be entertaining, they want you to be on the ball. And actually, all a performer is looking for is to know that they've got their words in the right order. And I suspect that is the issue with Laurence Fox. He's a performer, he's an actor, He is at his best when he is following a script, and this improvisation stuff, I don't think that's really his. I think at heart he's a good-natured individual. I was therefore rather shocked to see the plethora of articles about his former wife, Billie Piper. Now, I only know of her really because of her involvement. Wasn't she involved in some with a boy called Evans or something? I can't. What his name? Red-haired fellow who did some sort of scurrilous show on Channel 4. I don't remember very clearly. I don't think I ever saw it. It wouldn't have been my thing. And anyway, Billie Piper then turned up in Doctor Who, and she was rather sensational. But she's been talking publicly about her divorce with Laurence Fox, and that was over in 2016. That's even before Brexit. That's over 5 years ago. And she talks about his problems being a storm of his own creation. Yes, well, most problems are a storm of our own creation. It's just we rely on other people to direct us, and particularly people who come from the sort of creative acting side of the arts. They rely on directors. A storm of his own creation. Hey, he's not used to having his own ideas. He likes his own ideas to be approved and vetted and modified and workshopped and rehearsed. That's the nature of being an actor. And then she points elliptically to Richard Ayoade, who's Laurence's brother-in-law, and says that Richard and his family might have a more interesting take on him. I have no idea what she means by that, but I find it distressing to have all this dirty linen paraded in public. And Fox has said, I think yesterday or today, that Billie Piper took him through crippling court battles. And I find this sad. It's time to put the lid on the gossip and to think of the children, not only for Billie Piper and Laurence Fox, but also for the Prince and Princess of Wales. They have to think of the children and stop feeding the beast of the media, the people like Piers Morgan, who says in his gnomic way that he's heard things that are alarming. Well, so have I. So have I. And friends speaking with knowledge and gossiping. I'm sure in the next week it's going to get completely out of hand, and we just need to be on our guard that there's going to be this sort of competition to see who is the most knowledgeable friend. And that's just dirty, isn't it? What is going on in the marriage? It's not our job to find out what's going on in the marriage. It's our job to try and help to put things back together, to try and make things better. That's our job. Not to stir the pot and make things as bad as possible. That's not our job at all. Our job is to encourage positivity.